Commissioner Martin,
Here.
Commissioner Shelton,
Here.
and I'll
Oh,
note that
good.
he is here via Zoom. Commissioner Kiesling,
Here in person.
Commissioner Abbott, Commissioner McCarty, I do not see, and as Commissioner Tucker, I do not see. So we have 3 in person, 1 via Zoom.
Okay. Our first item of business are the district excess assessed valuation resolutions. You should all received in your packet, resolution 2022-01, 02, 03, and 04. These are the annual resolutions that we are required to adopt if we want to keep using the assessed value for the purpose of calculating or assessing for
Richard?
TIF revenue.
There are no numbers on any there. Are they supposed to have numbers on it or where do they reflect?
Right up here at the top.
I don't see it on mine. The resolution I see, but the value.
Oh, I don't
We're
think the
talking about
value's in here.
values here,
I don't think there's any value on these.
right?
Yes.
Oh,
All
okay.
right,
Thank you. Thank you.
right, because we don't know what the number is. Right.
That's a good thing. Thank you.
Should we do these independently or can we do them all at once?
I would think if there is no objection, I would just do them all at once. If you
Okay.
feel one particularly needs to be discussed, we can discuss that separately.
Okay, all right,
I will make a motion that we approve resolution 2022-01, 2022-02, 2023, 2024.
I second.
okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the excess fund resolution 2022-01 for Fullerton Pike TIF, 2022-02 for the Curry Profile TIF, 2022-03 for the State Road 46 Corridor TIF, and 2022-04 for the West Side TIF Fund. You have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelton,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Abbott,
Yes.
and Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
Oh,
Motion,
good.
motion is approved, 5-0.
Would you please add him to the attendees
Yes.
list?
Sorry for being late.
It's okay. Better late than never.
There you go.
All right. With that out of the way. The next item we have on our list, discussion on the area for the potential residential TIF. I had invited Steve Smith to participate. And he said he would be here, but I don't think he made it. So I'm not
They're walking around out there.
sure what's going on. He had done a presentation to the BEDC some years ago where he went through the various components of cost for residential or for development as a whole. And some of those components of cost we can influence through actions of either a residential TIF or our commercial TIFs with a residential component. And I was interested in which pieces we could actually impact and which ones we couldn't, because that might make a difference on where we would site the proposed residential TIF so we could leverage the maximum influence that the redevelopment commission could have on the affordability of this project. But we'll have to wait on that for another day. So do you, Jeff, have some more information about the ideas we had floated earlier concerning the residential TIF area?
Well, I guess the one thing I'd point out is we had assumed that one parcel that is, that what we thought was in the TIF that is not, I would assume that we'd want to add at least that. And then we had also had discussions about looking at some of the property further north. I don't know if we want to look at anything south of 46 as well that's currently in the TIF. I know that the large parcel just off Packing House Road sold to IMI. And so I don't know if that's really necessarily the direction we want to go. I guess my feeling is that maybe that we should probably have a meeting, staff and any of the redevelopment commissioners who wish to attend with planning to kind of look at what's in their comp plan, what they see as the beneficial parcels outside their current TIF area that may be adjacent to it, and get their input with the thought of that group bringing a recommendation to the next RDC meeting saying this is where we think it should go. I also think a conversation with our financial advisor based upon what planning sees going where in that TIF district would be beneficial as well.
So have you had any more discussions with Greg Garataz and his crew about how much of the existing 46 corridor TIF we could remove from its assessed evaluation and still meet our obligation for the bond, which we currently have? Do we have any idea about what that might be?
Well, I think if you recall, when we were looking at the bond, it was fairly close to even when it occurred. So, a lot of that will depend on other developments in areas that's not currently in the district. And when we were going through that bond, we discussed that with the developer, and he understood, that that was going to happen and that was a potential issue.
Right.
And he was still on board with moving forward with this route. I think in the long run, he would see himself better off even if those bond payments didn't quite make it with getting this additional infrastructure in for the residential areas. I think in the long run, I think it would make it.
Particularly because we can extend the length of the TIF,
Mhm.
giving us more opportunity to pay it off. But at the time we were talking about that, we were just talking about a commercial TIF essentially north of 46, not with a potential residential component rather than a residential TIF. I guess one of the questions was, to what extent does residential assessed value does commercial assessed value have in a residential TIF? So the normal for a commercial TIF, residential assessed value doesn't help us get any more funds. But in a residential TIF, does commercial value help us generate more funds to pay off bonds for that residential TIF?
And I think it does, but I'm going to check with Greg because I think there are limits. I don't think they want you to create a residential TIF and then put all commercial in it. But I think if it's an ancillary commercial use, I think then that would work.
Right.
But I'll confirm that with him.
Right. And this is relevant, I think, because as the North Park PUD is laid out, there are significant portions of that PUD north of 46 that are clearly commercial oriented. And then there are large areas of it that are oriented towards residential development. And so there is kind of a pattern that we could look at to say, this part's going to have this kind of development. This is probably going to have this kind. We're going to create a residential TIF. We would want to look at the residential and maybe some of the commercial, but maybe not all of the commercial. Maybe we would want to maintain that commercial component in the existing TIF, for example.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing to keep in mind is, because we've talked residential TIF, we've talked single family homes primarily, that despite what the market is today, it still takes time to develop that. So if you're developing 100 homes, they're not all going to be done after year one.
Right.
So that would be a phasing in of the increment too, which is something we'd have to
Right.
worry about and look at when we get to the point of bonding and funding and that,
Right.
those kind of things.
What are in a residential TIF? Certainly, single family homes are allowed. I would assume that duplexes are allowed
Mhm.
and probably quads. What's the limit on density that's allowed in a residential TIF?
My memory is that 4 units in one building was kind of the demarcation point.
Okay,
Pardon? Put your mic on. Please.
what was
Not
that
on.
again, Lisa?
But I thought that it was anything that could be built under the residential code and not the building code.
Ah, okay. So
Okay.
the code would specify what it was. But in the county, I mean, they're still, in the county, they're still considered residential.
Yeah. I don't, it's been a while since I've done that part, but as my memory serves, residential code does up to maybe triplex, maybe quads.
Yeah.
And then the building code takes over with like either 4 or 5 units. And so I think the way that it was written is that if you build it under the residential code, but I could be wrong. It's
No, I think, and I guess my memory is that it's 4 and 3 to 4 is right. But that's why that 4 came up is
Right.
because
It's when you got to when you have to start building firewalls, essentially. That sounds like probably what the
Yes.
demarcation is.
well, I think the building people would say it's a little more extensive than that, but
Yeah.
yes, I mean, I think how the building department would inspect it, I think is kind of the key point that everybody's
Okay.
been attracted to, and whether it's residential or a commercial.
Yeah, we would probably want to know exactly what that is. Well, the other aspect of trying to get affordable housing is how we end up, how we can enable better financing terms. I know the city has worked pretty hard on that one development south of town to work with a group that was offering affordable housing bonds or that's the wrong term, but they were offering tax credits as a part of the package. And whether that's a possibility, and if so, how would that fit into what we're doing?
tax credits or mortgage certificate credits.
I'm sorry?
There's a program that IHCDA runs that does mortgage certificate credits. Is it that? I don't know about tax
I don't know.
credits.
Well, I think tax credits are
I mean, you do.
based on census block data and requirements.
Okay.
So that's purely a developer incentive. I'm a little out of my comfort level when I say the next thing I'm about to say, but I think it's very specific census blocks, and I'm not sure the ones that we would be looking at
Yeah,
would
I
hit those.
think what you're talking about is a program that helps buy down the cost of the mortgage for for people. And I think that's a program that runs through the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority.
Okay,
So, so we could just figure out what lenders utilize those programs. And there's also some availability. There's also some programs that the Federal Home Loan Bank
Mhm.
runs through their member organizations. So we would just need to come up with a list of who's offering what.
And I think that especially with the federal COVID funding, there may be more local options now or in the near future.
okay,
Those would be time limited, but I know that there's been a lot of discussion about local support for mortgages and local support for lack of support for landlords who to protect them from losses, from damages in the
Right.
event that something happens. I know there's been a lot of discussions on that.
Right.
So there may be some additional funding and then for the near future, in the near future.
so in terms of a residential TIF, what we're allowed to do, once we set one of those up, is to bond for infrastructure improvements.
Mhm.
I think I recall that we could actually purchase property
Yes.
as part of it. Are those the kind of the two major things that we would be able to do?
I think what traditionally, when we've looked at it, those were the two things we've thought of. I looked at it a little bit and I don't remember the direct answer of whether the redevelopment commission itself could use some of its funding for some of these local programs. I think that's always a cart and horse kind of question is you've got to get the houses built first. And so that's primarily where it looks at, but it could be if we developed a new TIF, had it run for the 25 years, the initial debt could be for a period less than that 25 years. And then the last 5 or 6 years, you could start looking at maybe, or any excess funding coming in could be used for those kind of programs.
As I understood it, though, the redevelopment commission itself could not own the homes after they were constructed and essentially be selling them to buyers over time. We had to have a clear demarcation of our involvement in the property.
And I'm trying to think back to the code. I'm not sure if that is a practical question. Practically, do we have the ability to buy the land and then build the homes and then sell it versus legal, right? I'm not sure there's anything in there that says legally you can't do that. It's just, it would not be efficient and it would not lead to, I don't think it would lead to the best outcomes, right?
Right. But there could be another part of local government that would own the homes.
Well, I wouldn't think that would help with the residential TIF because if the government owned the home, wouldn't they be tax exempt?
It should be a use tax.
Use
How
tax?
it's used is how it gets taxed. But I think what you're thinking of, I guess what I would be thinking of is like a housing authority or something like that.
Right.
Doing something like that.
But are you concerned about maintaining affordability?
Well, yes.
Yes, okay, so, you could do things like, you want to do stuff, given the constraints of county staff, you probably want to do stuff that's easy, like covenants that are recorded against the property that the title company then would notify the county when the property was getting ready to change hands. And you could say things in the covenants like, this house has to be sold to somebody who meets this, since this isn't HUD money, whatever income guidelines you come up with to do it. And I think that might be the easiest way to do it because that's paperwork that can be done. And once you've got the template, it's, new name, new address, kind of thing. And then from there, they're recorded. And then when the property would change hands, if somebody was then it would be notified that was happening.
Right.
And you could re-qualify the buyers.
Okay.
But that's probably the easiest way to do it. I mean, anything else is going to get complicated and is going to require,
A few more lawyers.
well, staff time to just maintain.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that would be my recommendation, is do something simple.
Yeah, well, we certainly, I think, would want to do some things that would minimize our cost and involvement. But make sure that the arrangement was such that our intent was carried through the project
Right.
after we essentially got our financial.
Yeah, and you could, I mean, you could do things where, you put them out there and then if they stay in the house for a certain number of years, then they're, released, right? I mean, so you just have to think about what your long-term goal is, and
Right.
I would suggest that you use an AMI, an area median income that would allow for what we call workforce housing, which is going to be a little higher than your HUD funded area median income limits, just because that is such a need right now. If you're at 80% area median income or below, there are programs that can help you. If you're at 81% area median income, which is not a significant difference in income, and, up, there's nothing really. And so that segment of the population, I think, is really struggling to be able to find
Right.
housing, although quite frankly, everybody is right now because the market is insane. But so, think out through those things and then we can write that into the covenants.
Okay. Many things to think about. So we had an initial discussion. We looked at some initial maps
Mhm.
with the surveyor before.
Yeah.
And that's when we spotted these properties to the north that looked like they
Yes.
might have some opportunities. So we would probably want to revisit that and see just what was there. We probably ought to do an overlay of the PUD on the existing properties that we're looking at, so we know how they're zoned at the present time. Because if they don't have to be rezoned, we certainly reduce the cost of getting anything done.
Well, and I think part of that conversation should include the developer, because I know he's expressed an interest
Right.
in getting that all rezoned, because the original plan has not worked, and he realizes that.
Right. No, I know he's interested in redoing it
Mhm.
or breaking it up, but pieces of it that are done and can be used the way they are, there's no sense going to the expense. Okay, all right. Do we have any other comments about this
So not
residential TIF proposal?
So what I'm going to
You
do
guys
is I'm
know
going to
more
set
than
up
I
a
do,
meeting
so.
with planning to
Okay.
kind of look, and I'll have, and Jared Eichmiller, who is with the
Right.
surveyors department. I'll let you guys all know when it is, and let me know if you guys can attend.
Okay,
If a majority of you wants to attend, we'll notice it as a meeting and we'll handle it that way.
okay, all right. That sounds good. Okay, moving on our agenda. Item 4 minutes. I understand we don't have any minutes yet.
Yes, I apologize.
That's
Well,
okay.
that happens. We've been minuteless before, and I'm sure
Yeah.
we will be minuteless again.
Well, I'm trying to avoid that.
And we
Actually,
appreciate
We've
that.
done so well in recent times that it's a misstep, but that's fine. Jeff
Okay.
understands.
All right, next item is our approval of claims. We have 5 claims before us. This go around, we have 3 from DLZ. These are, they're doing inspections, I believe. These are inspections. Is that correct, Lisa?
The Profile Parkway is construction inspection. The Vernal Pike Connector Road is part of the right-of-way acquisition.
Okay,
And then the last one is as part of the condemnation for the Vernal Pike Connector.
right, and that's the And that's connected with the work that Yasmin is doing.
Yes, she handles the condemnations for the county.
All right, and then the beam longs and F is the inspection on the Curry roundabout stuff.
Correct.
And okay. All right, and all of these are budgeted items already, okay?
Correct.
All right. I will entertain a motion on the claims.
I move approval of the claims of $35,287.67.
I second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the claims totaling $35,287.67. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelton,
We lose him? No, he's there.
he's muted.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
sorry.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Abbott,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 5-0.
Okay. Takes care of that. All right. Do we have any more staff comments, updates? You want to tell us what's going on?
I can provide you any updates. The Curry Pike Roundabout is fully under construction. The Fullerton Pike Phase 3 Bridge and Road project is under right-of-way acquisition, and that seems to be going very well. We've reached negotiations, and we are probably 3/4 of the way done for the right-of-way acquisition. I believe there's 18 parcels on that project. The letting date for that project is July 12th of 2023. And the Vernal Pike Connector Project, we have two parcels that have been filed for condemnation. And then we still have negotiations with a couple more, and then we have a couple that are secured at this point. The letting date for that project is November of 2022.
And I noticed that the commissioners authorized some more money for inspections there on that project. Is that the article, the $1 million article that I saw?
Yes, I was trying to think, what? No, not today. Yes, we actually did a contract. We did RFPs for the construction inspection for the Vernal Pike Connector roadway, which that's following NDOT guidelines since we have federal funds connected to construction. We put the RFPs out. We received, I believe, 8 responses. We had 3 scores on that. We send our results to NDOT to secure our selection. And that was with Beam Longest and Neff. We've done work with them in the past. They have current projects with us, and they've done a really good job for us.
Okay, all right.
And I would just say that Lisa and I met with bond counsel and Greg Garitas to look at the Fulton Pike TIF and the bridge. And I think we've come up with a game plan that would essentially have a debt issued with the major bridge fund and then having Fulton Pike TIF revenue pledged towards it as well. I think we have 2 bridges coming up in the next couple of years. One is on Fullerton and one wouldn't be connected to any of our TIFs. So we're going to work through the issues of partitioning that out and looking at that. Talk to the commissioners about it. They thought that was a good idea because we do have those 2 big construction projects. They'll probably happen. 2023 is the let date for the Fullerton Pike bridge, and then the other bridge is something that's done with local money. So we're on our own timeline for that. So I think we could make that work.
Okay.
We think the revenue will be there. It's a matter of crossing all the i's, dotting all the t's, figuring out all the timing. But luckily we have some time for that. In my mind, the real problem is with construction prices being what they are today. Putting out a bond to pay for a project before you get the bids in seems to be running a risk that I'm not sure we want to do. So we'll work with them on those kind of timing issues.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything else, Jeff?
That's all I had.
Do the commissioners have any comment? I'll start with you, Jim, since you're the farthest away.
No comments, thank you.
Colin, do you have anything?
I don't have anything today. Thank you.
Okay. Lisa? Iris?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
And I don't have anything in addition, so I think we are ready to go. I will take a motion to adjourn. I think we have our business completed.
I so move.
Second.
Second to adjourn, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for attending today.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.